so many different things. I just want to say hey. Put it that way. Yeah, say hey. Stress the point about the tie. The tie represent actually spirit here. Right. The tie right there represents the connection to the earth, elements, they call it birds, to the other humans, it's called birds. Because everybody wants to be remembered. So it was said, well, what we should call this, what we should call that. And from there, in its original, and things start to be diversified, add on, and many things that's happening. There's always be a time where people don't go into compliance for many reasons. A lot of times because their surroundings doesn't let them see the beauty tools of life, the possibilities of life. And that's why these structures back here, that's what it represents. Every time I explain it, every time you explain something, you come into a greater in-depth detail of analyzing and explaining. The explain part is the X, making the X, which is the unknown, or the X, which is the cross, which is the attraction, or the building process, which they call the feminine energy. What has happened is the seesaw effect, and that's how those that you hold dear to, or hold dear to you, or have hypnotized you. Everybody's put on under a certain give a care about. Some more, some less. What you put in, what you get back. They say it's karma, come back to you, come back around, all kinds of things. What I'm saying now, right, is the situation that we're in, and we have to get out of that situation. This situation is unity is what we always had. And we could take this unity and what people did, tell you to sign in, you in this tribe, and this, that. And they took a part of your representation. The representation is the re, that who you are, your importance. They say that they represent it. Go to the church, they take a look. You go to the government, right, and fill out applications and give them all your who you are, who you be, when you came here, what day you got here, how much you weigh, what I'm saying, what you've been sucking up, what you like, what you don't like, and all this is fed to them prior to this time, right, through data input, which I know for sure, big shout out to my people who have done this all day, all night. This data input, I don't even know, they didn't care, this. And now the same thing with the talking, same thing with experiment, get paid to do experiments, this, that. That's fine, because we on that level and on other levels too. That's just a level of the circle of people, right, that we call pebbles on planet Earth. The lowest and slowest of all in existence, that which we actually program. People are what they call fleshable computers, and it's gonna come out. Right now you say, well, damn, you know, how did we get here? Who do handle us? Who are our handlers? I guess the word host of the planet, the word alien, and explaining the word alien is taking all leans to the planet, putting the al lean alien. The al is explained it. I said E-L and A-L, two different things. I'm giving you the final parts because as you bear off, right, and the bear represents teddy bear, Roosevelt, blah, 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 and all the teddy bears you got and prizes that you get for friendly competition, which is another example of the vision of the people. And, the me, the self confidence, it's the ego, but that's not, everybody has a certain part. I'm looking for another book. I'm gonna find that book. I have that book. But what it is this here is just a reference to the many people that's gonna need this type of shit. This is that smooth, cool stuff. If you look closely, as you'll see, these are the prototypes that will be the things that you'll be able to wear and don't have to, you say less. You could be less. When you start to look and you learn how to actually do the knowledge, and you see everything around you. You see the distance. You do the comparison. You see the distance between each what and what it could and how it relate to why you're here looking. Why are you listening to this? What brought you here? What is on you that you can, trim line, slim line, or even add on to what you doing in your vision? Because it's all about you. You're the center of the world. And that's how you have to keep on going. Once you fall into this thing that they call love, when I'm explaining to you what love is and giving you something that you can refer to so you can achieve through this love that is not cited. Where did it come from? Where did love come from? This feeling of love, this excitement, this that would drive you, this magnetic. Did I say magnetic? Did I say magnetic? Did I say we are energy, magnetic, and you got pulled over? And because you see people as how you view them from your what you know, which is not a lot because you didn't study. So you still 100 makes you feel good in the heart. But truly putting things together, adding on to the expansion of the beautiful world, what have you done? Are you truly a consumer? A gobble gobbler? A gobble gobbler. We had so much love in our family, and I never knew why. And when you know that you are loved and special and cared for and protected, right? And got somebody to represent you. I've been representing you for many, 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 many years. And it gives me it gives it reminds me of my auntie, right? I mean, all my aunties is like everybody's different. It's just so, you know, it is just so, surreal. But this auntie, she was just very specific about everything. Very happy. Very, I don't care what y'all talking about. I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm gonna be me, you be you. God bless you. But we gonna pray right now. And da, 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 da. She took authority. Yeah, she took authority. I mean, everybody had authority, but she, and she respected. She wanted more and more and more. And the more she gave, the more, the more, the more, the more she gave to the people, the more she got back and was needed to maintain her vision. You know? And people, as me coming up and having aunties, and not and knowing what I know now and the way I can explain everything. But before, so I can explain to you now, I got to go back when I didn't know what I know, so I can explain to you now, and then transfer that over to now, so we can move along. So you can skip past a lot of stuff that's not transferred, and you're never gonna hear it because that wasn't our lifestyle. You see, the lifestyle that people took is trying to explain and explain, go slow, explain, make the unknown plain. Okay, plain. Plain means simple, one way. Plain is levels of things, from planes, thoughts, frequencies. So when you explain as many recipes to this, so now just to get the people explained, the gathering of the people, that is El Fatiha. That says, it's been said to keep the people together. See, the fact that people know that they people, that's from Moses and Muhammad and Abraham and Confucius and Buddha. This is all part of the scriptures. Scriptures is true scripts. So when you get to other people's narratives, other people's writings, other people programming, you see, through their view. Everybody has a point of view. Everybody's point of view is their point of view. But when you're coming from the definition of life instead of the death of a nation through misinterpretation, death of a nation through misinterpretation, that is what has happened to the leaders that call themselves black. So they knew it would be a time that they would be that capsule that they speak about all the time that has pushed us this far, and we must go ahead and do what we need to do without them, because they're greedily holding on to the dumb shit that they perceived that was the best of the best, when it was clearly taught to them, clearly heard, reiterated. That means over, said over and over and over and over to in his eyes, that they're heavy. We start saying, oh man, you heavy than fuck. You know? So they said, don't say that word fuck. Okay? You can say truck, you can say lux, but don't say fuck. Because that F in front of uck is so many. That's just, oh no. It's like it turns shit around. Because now you don't have that low. You have that three. You know when I talk about the one, the B, the one, and the three? Yeah, that's me. And it's we collectively. Well, that E, right? From the B, you did the B, the one, and the three. Then you got the E, BE. So that E is a one, right? And that one is three different levels, and that's solids, liquids, and gases. So the F, the solids is gone on the F. Ah shit. Now you're talking liquids and gases before you go to the next realm, which is your ultra gases. And ultra gases is here. So this is your gases here. You can the gas is like here. It's like 50, in and out. As I said, in and out of your precious mind in the next before the change of time. Because up here there is no time. Over here, this is creation. Let's say this is creation. This right here, my two hands, is out of creation. The sun comes in, right? Boom, and then it circulates, you know, two different things. Oh, we're gonna explain this. You're gonna see this. I'm gonna show you. And you be like, dang, son. Yeah. So what happened was split right here to the side of that side. So we on this side here. This I'm having fun right now. So and trying to get to this side. Right. And I'm on this side. Because we used to be like this. Used to be like this. So you see if you see the cipher, the circle, right? It's like this is coming around this way, this is coming around that way. So we engage like this. But as we move around like this, we disengage. So now we still engage, hand to hand. Okay, this says shake, hand to hand. We engage. Boom. But now we move, right? So you got your own what you do. I got my own what I do. You know, I got my own way to do. You got your own way to do. Okay, cool. And now we're moving. We're talking now about what's going on over there. So even though it said we in this world and not of this world, even though we may be like this, and whatever, interacting, and then there's ways to interact with people. These are not your a friend is a free and out of their tribal formation. Someone that has no representation on a large scale because the individual, which in micro is called radical cells. That's why they call people radicals. Now that same radical compared to the global community now, right? It's now considered to be a nucleus. You see, something that's there, that's been concentrated and not tampered with. The theology, that energy, that vibration of love, what they call Jah. See, and the color is red, black, and green, as you see here. And then stimulating the blue, the reflection of the water from the sky and the clouds, which is water, which is atmosphere for those who don't know, but other names that make us smile with the glow. For within what we see is reflection of who we are. As we end that which is respected, Gia, living organism. And she shows the way where we can live in the body and don't become a part of the earth, a part of the animalistic kingdom. The people, the different types, will be supreme, will be clean, supreme, lean, keen. This yeah, I heard of Beverly Banks, Empress BB. They try to keep everything where BB can. It used to be my name too. Oh, for sure. A hut, a hut, a hut. You be like, a hut, a hut, a hut. Remember that? Just get their attention. Stop that dumb shit. You ain't gonna, you know, don't put that, don't put that around me. Don't put it around me. It's how I do it. Like this. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. Make the people say, yeah, this is how we make the people say it's all like that. This is how we do it. Everything is going to this is I forgot. I'll be like that. It be like that, it be like that, it be like that. It be like that, it be like that, it be like that. It's one thing very critical that I know. You know how you say you know? I know I'm missing. See, this is the type of thing, right? This is my what I do. Okay. And what's popping is this is what I do. Why I do what I do. I'm not gonna be rushed by those, first of all, people who don't appreciate nothing. Okay, because this is what I'm teaching. If I had if I thought you appreciated the things that's necessary for you to flip over the entrapment that you're in, he said, if you knew how to do this, you'd be doing something different. So he must fill this spot until you remember what you need to do. Okay. So what I'm here to do is to remind you and remind everybody, come together, boom, and chill a minute and get everybody, we call it cohort. Okay, so down with the cohort. And in this cohort, and it's a spin-off. So, a whole nother elevation of explanation towards our expansion in the rising. With that, a lot of different avenues, characters, teachings become ethnics, international, religious, academia, sports, street, country, county, country, county. Uh, Very important part. Nurturing, teaching, making a difference with tough love. That's what she called it, tough love. And consistency, change, and direction, appreciation. These are the things that is popping off right now. This is the direction that we're in, that we're going into, that we're doing. So with that being said, right there is I have a lot of information. You will get it. So you have to see the demeanor, and you can get it yourself. And you can listen to me, but you already know. That's monitoring. See, so when somebody said, "Who taught you that?" You're self-taught. See, because you're the boss. I don't want to be before you, teaching you. No, no. And I don't ask you questions. That's not what I do. I leave a legacy, leaving a legacy. See, and making the truth crystal clear. See, so people can see the transformation of this stage as they're embodied into flesh. And as the circuits is compared to the table as a vehicle. It's a vehicle, maybe that's a better instrument. Okay, but we say it's a torso, and this torso has extremities, arms, legs. Right? We have organs inside the body. That's called autonomy. There's different studies of different things about how it performs, and that from sacrifice. That's from, people would say, meanness is called incision, precision, trial and error from fault. Whose fault? The original host fault that created humans to do the work that they didn't want to do. Now, it doesn't matter if you want to know about this. That's not what I'm here for. That's the part. The part is here to let you know that when we talk about Agenda 21, Agenda 21 is a spillover, right? It's like a pressure cooker. When it's done, before it's done, you're gonna hear it. You're gonna hear the screaming. The screaming is the release of the pressure. The pressure from the continuation, you know, of the grind that they put the people through to get the energy, to get the expectation, to get this, to be the bodyguard, to be security, to be this, to this, but to keep them worried, keep them unsatisfied, keep them with problems, create problems. You know, it's always that's the system. The system's always going, regardless. Sometimes going fast, sometimes it goes slow. Sometimes you don't even know it's moving, but it's still moving. And that's when it said moving to the naked eye. For years, it appeared like it wasn't moving because it was in the same whole sit, shun, shown position. So when we get to really read R-E, Ali, or Lee, lie, L-I-E, lie, L-Y-E, lie, laying. Many things to say, many times to play, everything we do each and every day. What's the day? Day is a hand. Yad, Yadulahi, Yadulahi, Yadulahi. A'udhu billahi, billahi, Ali. All these sounds for what? Continuation of success. Fila. Come to success. The application of what? The pole musicians, the post musicians, the authorization of what things to do while circulation, economy, eco cycle, reality, things to do. They said, who are you? What are you to me? That's the question. See, when people do things you weren't supposed to do, things happen. It's called the domino effect. The domino effect is the things that happen from the things that shouldn't happen. And we fix it. And we smile. Are we happy? Yes, because we feel a happy tribe. The tribe is the tree of who we be, the one we be. Make it simple for everybody, everybody. Ba, ka, ta, ka, jin, I, ka, da, ray, zay, sin, shin, so, do, ta, za, iron, lion, fa, ha, kaf, lam, mim, nun, ha, wa, and ya. Yeah, it's just just to do what we do. Me and you, just to say what we say. Each and every day, how to play what we play. Play the right way. But if you don't know the right way, how you gonna say you know the right way? That's what I mean. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start the show. And that was the book I was looking for. It'd be like that. Fun, fun, fun. Fun, fun, fun. You never know what you're looking for. You never know who you be until you find out you what the one and the three. Aleph, that, the Aleph, the bad, the Aleph, tab. Okay. So anyway, we'll get a chance to pass this on to the fam. It's from one fam to the fam. One fam to the fam. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Y'all know what that is, right? You know what that be. Y'all figure that out, then you get to know it's who we be, what we say, how we play all day, every day. You already know. Anyway, this is changing your game plan and how I use incarceration as a stepping stone for success by Randy Karras. Okay, so it's the book right there. And it'd be appreciated to take a look at it. Actually, if you can get a project in one of your schools or one of your churches, and actually, get the children to sell these books and teach these books and learn the experiences of those people that's living and those people who are royally, God fed royally by the blood, the continual blood of Christ. Hallelujah. I just want to just bless those who are a blessing to others as we continue this journey. And for those who think this is one of them spooky ass shits. Journey is not. So don't get me into that. I'm not going with that dumb shit. Okay? So the next shit, we're talking about ego and archetype. Okay. And this would be a good one. Okay. There we go. There we go. There we go. Nice and slow. There we go. Okay. Mm-hmm. And look good for the camera. All times. You know what I'm saying? It's that cat in the hat. What you thought? Thought it was a symbol, or is actually the manifestation of the cat in the hat, the cat, the phoenix. The phoenix is what to do with that the cat, the hoop, the hat, and the holistic, the cat, the holistic, the cat that you see, the one that you be, and who it was. So anyway, uh, the first picture I put up, and that's the depiction of Christ and the angels. Matter of fact, did y'all see my commercial? Yeah, the commercial is the green light for all y'all green lighters. I know y'all be green, but it's the green light dispensary. Yeah, they got me coming down as the angel, like, and with technology, we're clipping in, but not right now. But anyway, we're gonna talk about this book right here. Here's another picture right here. This is what we talking about today, y'all. It's how we rocking all the way. Mm-hmm. This is what we're talking about today. All right, so let's see what we go on here. It's just a lot. Let's just see. Uh, we'll talk about these are acknowledgments of the book. Okay, we'll read a little. We're gonna read a little bit about the acknowledgments of the book, and I think that will give us a clear idea of the thought process of how this theology, how they want, how they thinking, the thinking of others. Okay, when I get this rendendous, these reviews on different things and referrals for your passage, and these things I say with the infinite flow to manifest the truth and let your love light flow, grow, expand, be safe, guarded at all times. Security of your life is not for others, it's for the individual, and it's actually for the collective. And this is what we do with the Eagle Home Society as we introduce you the many, many things that we teach, as we teach it as an outreach ministry for the new way of what we do, which is as each individual boss type, responsible in knowing the origin, knowing the respect, in respect to inspect, to apply what's needed for the continuation and expansion of who we are. We're not just people. We are, like I said, boss, as far as the street, the straight, and the narrow. As far as Sarat al Mustaqim, we are Wahid, the collective. We are Hudi, the guides. You see, we are the good. We are the guard, the guardians. We are all that is needed for those who are evolving from a animalistic behavior, an expansion of their evolutionary process that's guaranteed to them through the first covenant, which is covenant of Noah, the rainbow, and the different HUE, the hues, which they call colors, which we call melanation, and the reason for melanation from people's point of view who have and those who don't have, those people who rob and steal for it, people who have experiment on melanation, and people who have it is extracted by way of killing. You see, and that's all reasons for thou shalt not kill, not just the large mass process of genocide or putting genes aside. You see, through various economical ways of actually making money, at the same time, using parts for years, body parts. And we say body parts, you're a sexual breeder. You, machinery in the country needs you. Free sex to make new starts, brand new people called body parts. Sexual television, Planned Parenthood, not new. High school sex in grade school too is a natural reaction to procreate. But now they talk about information, body parts with racial hate. Body parts is a sign of the time, information, false information funneled through your mind with TV, radios, and plenty of magazine, daycare, schools, and teachers' phony dreams, body parts. You see, these things we say with the infinite flow to manifest the truth. So, announcement of this book is a result of a decade of thought and writing. Part one began as a small paper entitled The Ego Self Paradox, published in the Journal of Analytical Psychology. Analytical, anal, anal, analytical Psychology, Volume 5, Number 3, January 1960. Let's just talk about January 1960. Even if you have not noticed, if you didn't know, you was not really here. And I was actually like 4 years old, 6 years old. And in 1964, right, that's when they let black folks integrate. They call it integrate. Now, was that true integration, or was that to data mine? See, to start mixture, to start friction, and to stop the growth of expansion, because we were taking the same road as those that was before us, who were those who had expanded into new horizons, as they would call it, as far as economical status, as far as new terrain, as far as new structures, which was considered to be new inventions, which is considered to be more luxury, or more compatible to the lifestyle. Now we go to lifestyle. We went to 1960. You have no clue of what happened in 1960. So for all you up and running, thinking I want it now, that we just left and disengaged from that dumb shit. That's why we left the ass over there. And we cut and paste and we let them just dissolve. Let them run rampant. And we don't worry about what they do. That's the reason we mind our own what we do. And when we know that they're not down to get down, the collective of what we stand for, we are all bosses. We respect one another. We have our own constitution. We already put people on notice. This ain't no joke. We have to stand for what is ours. And everybody got to carry their own weight. And what you do, respect it. Bosses. Ain't got nothing to do with gender. People gonna do what they gotta do. There is no gender. This is something that's made up. There is a correct way of living for the expansion that you want to achieve from your mission. There's gonna be different layers of shit going on. I'm always gonna be with the winners, the collective. That's how we do. Okay, so now get back to there. So we got, and in Montreal in 1964. So you got lots. Okay, so now we say lectures on analytical psychology clubs of New York in 1962. You know, we wasn't invited to those type of clubs. And Los Angeles in 1963 and Montreal in 1964. So now you see right there when they talk about two different what they call countries, and they are doing the same thing mentally, talking about psychology and the study of psychology, so they can use that as a force of overcoming and staying in control of the narrative, which is nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with achieving and your and everything that you can put in to help those. You know, I'm still looking for help. As I explained that which people didn't think about. That's the way I put it. It wasn't given to them to say. And then certain people, because of the way they have gained information, they also took an oath not to reveal information. See? And that could be nerve. But my teachings about that is hold on to the oath that you have taken, because that's what made us strong. If you look back there, you got different pictures. Pictures picture in different pictures have different representations, and different symbols, and different names, and different things that's going on in there. And that's what everybody have a difference. That's what makes us so uniquely we are amazing. You know, the maze part is true, but the word amaze don't have to be for confusion. It could be a beautiful maze with doors where you can get out. You know, it's like that's the same thing. A maze when you watch TV, they're taking you into that environment. You're there just as much as you're touching it and smelling it. Now they have ways that you can do that. That's fine. That's what you like, you know. But what we try to achieve is the responsibility of maintaining a normal life. And what's normal is nature. And what's nature is the things that we know is nature, not the things that you can go into and be entranced. When you walk into any structure, true, building, okay? When you go into any structure, you see entrance. The word entrance means entrance, which means they're putting you under that spell. The spell is the spell of the letters for the articulation of the sound to articulate a photo attached. So you can stay in order. You program. So I always say to those people that do I have glitches? No, that's why we don't have glitches. That's why we created on the chi, which is energy, in the application chi at with the 99, which is the 66 or root 66. You use the 99 because everything is flipped around. So we're speaking about ego and archetype by Edward Indiga. And we know at the time in his writings, the country was put together a certain way, and this is what we call academia. This is the teachings, the hopes for experimenting of what we call a capitalistic society. And this was to go over the communism and the socialism. And as we see that all isms and all contribution towards humanity is well accepted. With those things that were sent by that which is the way of life that has no is yielding, is merciful, but it's not, it don't stop. Love will be love. Purification of the heart is necessary to achieve and have longevity. And those people, because they have mild wealth, the Quran will tell you want to take it to be something spooky. It's not spooky. People make it spooky because that's their way of being safe and saving Islam. It's not spooky. They do it. When you say the name is Hassan or Hussein, and when they say you insane because you're going through the methods of the truth, El Haq, you become a Haji, and now you're experiencing intergalactical waves. Everything's connected. Big shout out to the DNA. We're gonna say and. Big shout out to and. Okay, that's what we're gonna say. So we're gonna do it our way. So the whole thing is good. It's a prefix. It's only beginning to draw. It is only beginning to dawn in the educated world. I call it academia. So we'll say educated world. So now we know the difference between those who are not educated. And this is going all the way back to the 60s when it was written. So you got the uneducated and the educated, and they was educated by law, right? Which restrain. The word restrain means don't let them make sure restrain it. That means like when you have a strainer and you don't want certain things to go in, so it's blocked. When they restrain it, that means keep going and keep going and keep going and take out those people that even they got it. We ain't taking no chances if they are melanated in any way. they go allow you to get this far. But what we gonna do? We gonna trick them. So back in the days, they used to call pink slip. Now pink slip was the cities. Now the city was see the tide or the six tides. See the tides. Okay. Anyway, the city collecting people. People coming from different. They call them municipalities. Other people call them boroughs. Depends on where you at and how much control they had with the agriculture and the many different way they did it. You know, it was more to control because of the terrain, the jungles or the woods. We say, don't call them jungles. You call them woods. So in the city, with automation, city infrastructure was built mainly for more people to be what we call metropolitan. Metropolitan. And metropolitan is a style. It's metropolitan is connected with industrialization. The dust was the dust of the ground, the dust of who we be, the collected from the women breathing in the dust particles and creating skin. See, that's how you gotta think. That's how we got to appreciate the woman for all the pain that she go for the gain of creating what we call falsely life is hired or what is hired is the total. When it gets down to here, it gets to be what they call Noah. And it's the abundance. Then it gets individually, it gets to be she, CHI. Then when it gets streamlined, right, past the all, and the all is she. Individually, it becomes she, SHE. Then she becomes the original of what it is, the it force. So we're gonna have to keep on back all the time, back. So she's in charge. She, SHE. Then what she does to block for her queendom, that don't, that do, the W, which is two U's, with a cipher, the collective that she do. She creates what they call the she to be HES. It's he's. And that he's become him. That him is like the same thing as you roll up your pants and you sew it. That him, that ledge, that double stitch, that security. He becomes her security. See? And that's when she used to duplicate of herself. See, which was disrupted because of the purity, because what they needed for everybody, to break it down to one chaos, because they couldn't do it on their own because of their disobedience and mixing in with other people that we now call animals. And that's why the separation of course, with the intellect and how to deal with these people that we now separate. It says they are mild kings, but Annie, which means twice, it's a different eye or intellect of how we're going to deal with these, especially in the situation that we're bringing in to control the inhabitants of the people by using what we stole when we do the Christian crusade to the Kabbalah, which was the translation, articulation of an invention, something that brought into this as another invention called writing their way through the instruments of the in the square, calculated in the square with the G to achieve, articulate one level articulation, continue, rule, continue, roll, control, to rule, continue, to stop. This figuration of proper interpretation to achieve strength, to hold on one time. And remember with the shuruh, the pure pages. Okay. As a result of the experience, he could then recognize the same phenomenology expressed in the culture, products of mankind, myth, religion, philosophy, art, literature. He has penetrated to the root source of all religion and culture and thus has discovered the basics of a new organic syncretism of human knowledge and experiences. The new viewpoint thus achieved is so comprehensive and all-embracing that once grasped, it cannot fail to have revolutionary consequences for man's view of himself and the world. Pronouncements are not sufficient to confer new levels of consciousness, realization of the reality of the psychic, which makes this new world view visible, can only be achieved by one individual at a time working laboriously on his own personal development. This individual, opus, is called by Jung individuation, a process in which the ego becomes increasingly aware of its origin from and dependence upon the archetypal psyche. This book is about the process of individuation, its stages, its vicissitudes, and its ultimate aim. I hope it will be a small contribution towards a goal that Jung's work has made eventually certain, namely the reconciliation of science and religion. That's a prefix. It says man's consciousness was created to the end that it may first recognize the descent from a higher unity. 2. Pay due and careful regard to this source. Attention. Pay attention to what is getting ready to put get put down. Period. Therefore, afford the psychic as a whole the optimum degree of life and development. Okay. Jung psychological paraphrase of statement of Ignatius Loyola, Jung, G. Aeon, Volume 9, 2 Collected Works, Princeton, New Jersey, Princeton University Press, herefore CW, paragraph 253. Anyway, part one. In individuation and stages of development, and it takes its note from Plato. And that's the next thing too, is the works of Plato, the works of Shakespeare actually. Is something that needs to be read, needs to be taught to the children. These are examples of the things we may want to do or may not want to do. Things that has happened. So it says, and if it's true that we acquire our knowledge before our birth and lost it at the moment of birth, but afterward, by the exercise of our senses upon sensible objects, recovered the knowledge which we had once before. I suppose that we call learning will be the recovery of our own knowledge, and that's Plato. And that is also a true thing because knowledge in every frequency has been stolen, misplaced, rearranged, and misused, so it would hurt and abuse others. So what happens is this what happens is people try to say, well, I want equality. You are so damn mine. See, that's the same thing you get on the airplane and say, you know what? I want to fly the plane today. What is will always be. What ain't will never. This is the reason why people take out those people that don't fit in. They call it rewards and punishment. See? And there's a lot of people ran and say, I don't fit in with this. But see, in Islam, and I do say salam alaikum, and we say wa alaikum salam. See, and even if we're not there, we still say wa alaikum salam. You know, and just to remind myself, because I remind you, salam alaikum, wa alaikum salam. Kaif Ali, how you feeling? That means what's living in you, may it be the peaceful, may it don't be the jinn getting to you. May you balance yourself out. It's the new teachings. You have the ability to hold the layman and shaitan, come into a whole new, just a world where you are just so elated that that's what it do. So even if you're in this world, but you're not of this world because you already not only despise the word, you look at the word and you see WOR, which is war, and LD, you see, is lead, you see, into war. See, so when you take it and you see what the world is, and then you flip it to the glory and say, glow, be in the glow, in the glory. And then you go into your natural state instead of dealing with the invention, the thing that's going to shun you from your natural, your true nature. See, we can go into many things about why we should say this word, which give a high elevation and more tingle in the mingle when you speak it with those who know what you say, do what you say, to those who want to play, those who are upliftment. See, as we say, we uplift humanity. You cannot resurrect the dead. We leaving the dead in the graveyard. We leaving the coffins over there. The Manafi coins, they can stay there also. We disengage from all their affairs. We are who we are at all times. We are the breath of life, smiling bright with the cheekbones. That's right. They not tight. They loose as a goose. We say what we say, but we say the truth each moment, second breath of every day. The day is the yad. The yad is the hand. We are the hand of the Most High in the flesh, representing the breath of life we be. We are almighty. That's right. Especially the body of Christ. That is so super. The light that's nice. That's right. Doing what we do all day. Being everywhere we play. This is what I say. And yes, I did get married, but not the way the people talking about, you know, our father. That's two rings right there. Alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum. I said, I told you before. And the other one is the diamonds and the golds, the direction of those who have a point of view, those who are important too. The time, the bling bling, everything we do, the power of life when I talk to you, everything nice, 9 to 9. That's the label. That's the major label that we are doing right now. We come into play. Watch what the politicians have to say. The gladiators of this day, watching us smash them every day, giving them people there to show them what to do, raising up the frequency. This is what we be. You know, how we fix it. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, I'm back. That's what I do. Yeah, but this the other ring too. Yeah. It have nothing to do with the spooky they talk about. That has something just us. The body of Christ, the crystal, the solidification in the body. You see that we know about the gear, we know about the winds of our friend. We control the wind, we control the weather, we are the weather. You see, the weather comes through us, through gear. That's the association that we have. See, that's the whole thing in our association with the Elohim society. These are the things that we talk about. This is the way our communication. These are articulation. This is the modification of what we do. This is what we do. You know, I don't need to have actually a crew because that would just keep me limited to what I have to do because I do what I do instrumentally. You see what I'm saying? I don't have to think about it. It's already done. It's a done deal. Every generation, it's already done. I just make my present remedy, so I can ignite the potential of the many, those who are special. But to do this, I figured out what happened, and how we have the separation, why we need the separation. They can stay over there, we can be right there. Do what we can do. We can see them we want to, they'll see what we want. If it's safe to be, that's why we got the welcome. If you welcome on down, if you not, stay where you at. That's what welcome is. If you know that you're a leper, if you know that you're a recessive gene, acknowledge that. Don't walk around here acting like you all that, like you brand new, because you're not. We acknowledge who you are. We understand that the money that's spent, the energies that's not coming to us. We will defend ourselves. That's not a problem. With the IRS, with the barter system, with the tickets, with the money, with the fiat, with the Bitcoin, with the blockchain, that has nothing to do with what we do. That's not my concern. I take care of that. Because when you blink your eye and come back and still here, I take care of that part. When you go to church and get back, I take care of that part. When it's rain and it's thunder and lightning, we take care of that part. You don't talk about that part in your news. You don't talk about the galactic wars that's going on. You don't talk about the 9, the 19, the 7, the 3, the 1, who I be. You don't talk about that. So stop talking about equality. It's not equality because you had a plan. We had a plan. But guess what? The collectively, that has transformed and ascended down here as those ascended up. As we ascended down, as we combined and become a chut because of the teachings that was put down here repeatedly from ear, mouth to ear. Every rashes of genes that you call generations. Don't play. This is the time for the hand to be. So the things that you say, the things that you've done, the things that you have printed one day, every day, individuality and the stages of the development, inflated ego. The sun will not overstep its measures. If it does, the enringes, the handmaid of justice, will find him out. Okay. So this is another man's view about another man say, I'm not even going to elaborate on this today, okay? That has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. This is what I'm doing. So we're talking about ego and self. Jung's most basic and far-reaching discovery is the collective unconsciousness or the archetypal psyche. Through his researches, we now know that the individual psyche is not just a product of personal experience. It also has a pre-personal or transpersonal dimension, which is manifested in universal patterns and images, such as are found in all the world's religions and mythologies. Okay, so we're talking about religion. Religion means to bring, return, the legion, to establish something that's not there in your memory, not there in your people, not there in your culture, but to take people, right? Decaptivate them. We say the cap is the head, take the heads of the parents, kill them, teach them your way. Indoctrination, that's called indoctrination. Indoctrination through the teachings the writings. The writing is the author. The author is the authority. The authority, right? If not spoken about, goes on and on. Once it's debated, and once it's debated, knocked down, it no longer hold precedent. The president is the articulation, the presiding, the person is the president, who is the principal of the principals. You got principals with an L and an E, a principal of the school with a PAL, like the police athletic league. The principal, the prince is the shining, or the prince is the proceeding, the one that's going to proceed, or the eminence. See, see, that emerged, through what they call the empress. You see, who has everything in her reign. You see, her reign in mortar, matter, a reign, holding the reins of the horses, the horizons, the days, the reigns. See, big shout out to December rain, that reigned in December. This is January. So big shout out to your first posting. It was really very, 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 very uplifting for humanity. It's a time. It's that time. It's your time to shine. And big up. That's Empress BB. Big shout all the Empress, the new, the old, the returning, those who know, those who just waking up to find out, wow, that was very impressive. Those who found out that, what, the things that I said, what I say momentarily, but to me was many, many moments ago. To you was this day, that day, whatever. Because it depends on how you are. That's right. Mm-hmm. Be like that. And that's another thing too. Is everything is everything. I got something for that. I got something for that monkey. All right. As this cocoa butter, excellent. It be like that. It's a lot of different things. Whether we must have essential manifests. We must have essential things. Be with be, say with say, play with play, play. Now would be, yeah. Now you got another clue, right? Yeah, you got to keep that skin flexible. You got to feed the sin with what they call absorption. There's different ways to eat. Eat is from eat is like eight. Eight is the recycling infinitely. So something is for the protection of the elements. See, when we you got to exercise all parts of your body, everything right. You got to wake up because right now you're like a zombie. Let's see what he's saying right here. It was John's further discovery that the architectural psyche as a structuring or ordering principle which unifies the various archetypal contents. Thus, the central archetype or archetype of wholeness, which Jung has termed the self. The self is the ordering and unifying center of the total psychic, conscious, and unconscious, just as the ego is the center of the conscious personality. Or put in other words, the ego is the seat or subjective identity, while the self is the seat of objective identity. You got subjective identity and you got objective identity. The self is thus the supreme psychic authority and subordinates the ego to it. The self is most simply described as the inner empirical deity, as the identical with the imago Dei. Jung has demonstrated that's the book. That shit is so before. When we do what we do, when we say what we say, when we play what we play, it's another day. Another day with day, the hand of God. This is what I do. You know who I be, you know who I am. Okay, so it says, it is expressed by a certain type of symbolic image called mandalas. All images that emphasize a circle with a center and usually with a additional feature of a square, a cross, or some other representation of quantity fall into this category. There are also a number of other associated themes and images that refer to the self. Such themes as wholeness, totality, for union of opposites, the central generative point, the word navel, the word the axis of the universe, the creative point where God and man meets, the point where transpersonal energies flow into personal life, eternity as opposed to the temporal flux, incorruptibility, the inorganic, united paradoxically with the organic, protective structures capable of bringing order out of chaos, the transformation of what is called energy, the clerics of life, all refer to the self, the central source of life energy, the foundation of our being, which is most simply described as God. Indeed, the richest sources for the phenomenological study of the self are the innumerable representations that man has made of the deity. Since there are two autonomous centers of psychic being, the relation between the two centers becomes vitally important. The ego relationship to the self is a highly problematic one and corresponds very closely to man's relation to his center as depicted in religious myth. Indeed, the myth can be seen as a symbolic expressions of the ego-self relationship. Many of the vicissitudes of psychological development can be understood in terms of changing relationship between ego and self at various stages of psychic growth. It is this progressive evolution of the ego self relationship to which I purpose to examine. Jung originally described the phem- the phenomenology, phenomenology of self as if occurs in the individuation process during the second half of life. More recently, we have begun to consider the role of the self in the early years of life. Neu Nam, on the basis of mythological and ethnographical material, has depicted symbolically the original psychic state prior to the birth of ego consciousness as the Ouroboros, using the circular image of the tail eater to represent the primordial self, the original Mandela state of totality out of which the individual ego is born. Forehand, on the basis of clinical observations of infants and children, has also postulated the self as the original totality prior to the ego. It is generally accepted amongst analytical psychologists that the task of the first half of life involves ego development, with progressive separation between ego and self, whereas the second half of life requires a surrender or at least a relativization, relativization, relativization of the ego and its experiences and relates to the self as it relates to the self. The current workings formula, therefore, is the first half of life, ego self separation, the second half of life, ego self reunion. Thus, formula, although perhaps true as a broad generality, neglects many empirical observations made in child psychology and in the psychotherapy of adults. According to these observations, a more nearly correct formula would be a circular one, which could be diagrammed thus: the self ego to the ego self union, the ego self union to the self ego to the ego self union, the self ego self union. The process of alternation between ego self union and ego self separation seems to occur repeatedly throughout life of the individual, both in childhood as in maturity. Indeed, this cyclic psychological development from birth to death. According to this view, the relationship between the ego and self at different stages of development could be represented by the following diagrams: ego, self, and then the ego is outside the self. And then you have the ego, self, outside the self, and then you have the ego, self, outside the self as full ego, and then you have a full self. So when I read things like this to you, you have to figure out your destiny, what you're trying to achieve. But what it's saying to me, you have the all. That's every goddamn body you see. Okay? So that's the self. And the ego is the individual view. Your view, your point of view is what we now consider the ego. So you have a right to your point of view. You have the ego, yes. So when somebody say you have an ego, let nobody diffuse your ego, because that makes you less than striving for your full potential. My job is to let you know you have a full potential. You're worth something. You have other books too. And they can't program it. When I read this to you, you'll be able to program yourself. You'd be able to deprogram your DNA from all foolishness and program yourself and become autonomous automatically, renewing yourself. And that's what they didn't want you to know. That you will be not important. You will not be able to expand in creation. You'll be dead weight. You'll be heavy. You'll be a piece of shit. Okay? Just that which, okay, in fetus, there's ways that we can use propane gas to burn things for fuel, for heat in different places. There's a lot of waste because they just don't know. They're only articulating and going as fast as they possibly can, coming out of Europe, going through pain, many challenges, many tests, many sacrifices, many wars, many programs of achieving, many deprogramming, many sessions of trying to get it right. So we do commend each and every one on the planet Earth. This is not a hate game. This is a revision of what it could be. So I will be reading this book, and I'm going to start off right now. It's called Nycbk. CompTIA, the second edition. And we're just going to read a couple of things in here. And this book, it may be difficult. That's what people say. We don't say that. Let's read the damn book. Introduction to Networks. This is contents at a glance. The open systems interconnection specifications. Networking topologies, connectors, and wiring standards. The correct Ethernet specifications, networking devices, introduction to Internet protocol, IP addressing, IP subnetting, troubleshooting IP, the introduction to NAT, introduction to IP routing, routing protocol, switching, and virtual LANs, wireless networking, authentication and access control, network threats and mitigation, physical and hardware security, wide area networks, troubleshooting tools, software, hardware, tools, networking, troubleshooting, mismanagement, monitoring, optimization, answers to review questions, answers to written labs, subnetting class A about additional study tools. So now we're going to the table of contents. It is introduction to networks. The first things first, what is a network? The local area network, which is called LAN, local area network. Common network components, wide area networks, which is called WAN, W-A-N. Network architects, peer-to-peer or client server. Network topologies, bus topology, star topology, ring topology, mesh topology, point-to-point topology, point to midpoint topology, hybrid topology, topology section, backbones, and segments, selecting the right topology, the network backbone, network segments, summary, exam essentials, written lab review questions, the opening systems, interconnections, specifications, the layered approach, the advantage of reference models, the application layer, the presentation layer, the session layer, transport layers, network layers, data link layer, physical layer, introduction to encapsulation. The summary, exam essentials, written lab, review questions. Chapter 3, networking topologies, connectors, and writing standards. Physical media, coaxial cable, twisted pair cables, fiber optic cables, media converters, broadbands over power lines, serial cables, cable properties, transmission speeds, distance, duplex, noise, immunity, noise, immunity, security, EMI, noise, immunity, security, EMI, frequency, wiring standards, 568A versus 568B. Straight dot cable, crossover cable, TI crossover cable, installing wiring distribution, summary, exam, essentials, writing lab, review questions, the current Ethernet specifications, network basics, Ethernet basics, conclusion, domain, broadcast domain, CSMA/CD, half and full duplex Ethernet, Ethernet at the data link layer, binary to decimal, hexadecimal conversion, Ethernet addressing, Ethernet frames, channel bonding, Ethernet at physical layer, summary. Network devices, common network connectivity devices, hub, network interface card, bridge, switch, router, firewall, hub, network interface card, bridge, switch, router, firewall, dynamic host, configuration, protocol server, other specialized devices, multi-layer switch, load balancer, domain name server, service server, domain name service server, domain name service server, proxy server, encryption devices, VPN connectors, planning and implementing a basic show network using network segmentation, determining requirements, switches, and bridges at data link layer, hub and physical layer, environmental consideration, summary, exam essentials, written lab, review questions, introduction to Internet Protocol, TCP/IP, introduction TCP/IP, a brief history of TCP/IP, TCP/IP, and DOD model, the process application, layer protocols, the host layer protocols, internet layer protocols, data encapsulation, summary, exam, essentials, written lab, review questions, summary, exam, essentials, written lab, review questions. Terminology addressing, terminology, IP addressing, IP terminology, hierarchical IP addressing scheme. Hierarchical, 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 hierarchical IP addressing scheme, network addressing, private IP addressing, IPv4 address types, layer 2 broadcast, layer 3 broadcast, unicast address, multicast address, Internet Protocol version 6, IP version 6. Why do we need IP version 6? The benefits of and uses for IP version 6. IP version 6 addressing and expressions, shortened expressions, IP types, special addresses, summary, exam, essentials, written lab, review questions. IP subnetting, troubleshooting, IP, and introduction to NAT. Subnetting basics, how to create subnet mask, class, inter-domain routing, subnetting class C addressing, subnetting class B addressing, troubleshooting IP addressing, determining IP address problems, introduction to network address, translation, network address translation, network address translation, NAT, the type of network address translation, NAT names, how NAT works, summary, exam, essentials, written lab, review questions. We have a lot of things to do, many things to say, doing it every day. Everything that we play it, as we say it, as we apply the things that we be. So this is Network Study Guide. The next book that we want to go into a little briefly is called The Story of Mankind. Story of Mankind by Dirk Whale Van Loon. Updated by John Merriman. The classic history of all ages, for all ages, updated in a new version for the 21st century. So, it's a nice book, has a nice shield on it. This is the story of mankind. So if we open the book, first page, mankind. story of mankind. That's a very bold, proud statement. The story of mankind. Second page. To Jimmy. What is the use of a book without pictures? Said Alex. Okay. So this is the picture. Okay. This is the second page. It goes from here. So it speaks to the story of mankind by Hendrik Willem, HENDRIK Van Loon, updated by John Merriman. So the picture of a ship, and it looks like it's sailing away, actually, from the city. It doesn't look like it's gone to the city. It doesn't seem like it's docked in the city. Got his rollers out. So, but I'm not gonna go that far in the book. But it's 2000, so it's 20 something years. In 1972, publishing note concerning the updated edition. In 1972, the publishers updated the book with the assistance of Dr. Edward C. Freehan, Professor Paul Sears of Yale University. So this is what we're teaching now. You look at the people who wrote the book. You got Yale University, York University, Marion Mann of Yale University. Illustrated was added by uh, other people. Illustration. So we got the setting of the stage, our earliest ancestors. Let's go to 9. If we can go through early, the prehistoric man. Prehistoric man begins to make things for himself. Hieroglyphics. The Egyptians invent the art of writing, and the record of history begins. Okay. The Nile Valley, beginnings of civilization in the Valley of the Nile. The story of Egypt, the rise and fall of Egypt. Okay, Mesopotamia, the second center of the Eastern civilization. Okay, so now when we talk about civilization, let's just put this straight. So when it's recorded in your annals, your yearly annals, like anal, the end, like 8, recycling, food, consuming, coming back out after it's utilized in the system, digestly, exerting things that is not to be used, but you have become utilized. The body that's lent to you is also doing a service to the continuation of the expansion of creation, which is called feces, which is shit, like shirt, but they don't want you to say because the shirt is a covering. You see, it clothes. They say clothe, cloth, clot. It's a protection for the elements. El, the source, meant from wind, blowing continuously. Elements, the wind. Means it's You can't tell, you can feel. You see, your sensors are connected. That's how we perceive. So anyway, it goes to the story of Egypt. Just the fact that they call it Egypt and don't call it Kemet, that's their viewpoint. See, that's how you do discernment. And that's how we're going to teach. So we're going to take from what they're talking about. So they're talking about the Persian Wars. Do you think about that when you go get a piece of cake from the store that you don't want to bake because you why? So I'm not really going like in depth with any book. I just want you to know that you can get another person's point of view and see how they want to run with it. It says the Holy Roman Empire of German nationality. The Holy Roman Empire of German nationality. So when we talk about Romans and Germans and we talk about locations, historical and ethnic groups, and it's a lot of information. And people get it stirred up, especially those who've been programmed to destroy themselves and destroy you. Destroy themselves means that they're not gonna figure this out. That's why we're gonna to see what they're saying and show you that it's not the truth. The French Revolution invades Holland. A lot of information about things that you talking about something about in Zimbabwe, Paris. In the year 1534, he was studying in Paris at the Sorbonne together with the 7 other students who founded a fraternity. The 8 men promised each other they would lead holy lives, that they would not strive after riches, but after righteousness, and would devote themselves, body and soul, to the service of the church. A few years later, this small fraternity had grown into a regular organization and was recognized by Pope Paul III as the Society of Jesus. Loyola had been a military man. He believed in discipline and absolute obedience to the orders of the superior dignitaries. Became one of the main causes for the enormous success of Jesuits. They specialized in education. They gave their teachers a must thoroughgoing education before they allowed them to talk to a single pupil. They lived with their students and they entered into their games. They watched them with tender care, and as a result, they raised a new generation of faithful Catholics who took their religious duties as serious as the people of the early Middle Ages. The true Jesuits, however, did not waste all their efforts upon the education of the poor. They centered the palaces of the mighty and became the private tutors of future emperors and kings. And what this meant, you will see for yourself when I will tell you about the 30-Year War. Before this terrible and final outbreak of religious fanaticism, a great many other things had happened. Charles V was dead. Germany and Australia had been left to his brother Fernand, all his possessions, Spain and the Netherlands and the Indians and America, had gone to his son Philip. Philip was the son of Charles and a Portuguese princess who had been first cousin to our own husband. The children that are born of such a union are apt to be rather queer. The son of Philip, the unfortunate Don Carlos, murdered after with his own father's consent, was crazy. Philip was not quite crazy, but his zeal for the church bothered closely upon the religious insanity. He believed that heaven was appointed him as one of the saviors of mankind. Therefore, whoever was obstinate and refused to share His Majesty's views proclaimed himself an enemy of the human race and must be exterminated. Lisa's example corrupted the souls of his highest neighbors. Spain, of course, which was a very rich country, all the gold and silver of the New World flowed into Castilian and Aragonese treasures. But Spain suffered from a curious economic disease. Her peasants were hard-working men and even harder-working women, but the better class maintained a supreme contempt from any form of labor outside of employment in the army or navy or civil service. As for the Moors, who had been very industriously artisans, they had been driven out of the country long before. As a result, Spain, the treasure chest of the world, remained a poor country because all her money had to be sent abroad in exchange for the wheat and other necessaries of life, which the Spaniards neglected to raise for themselves. Philip, the ruler of the most powerful nation of the 16th century, depended for his revenue upon the taxes which were gathered in the busy commercial beehives of the Netherlands. But these Flemings and Dutchmen were devoted followers of the doctrine of Luther and Calvin, and they had cleansed their churches of all images and holy paintings that had informed the Pope that they no longer regarded him as their shepherd, but intended to follow the dictates of their consciousness and the commands of their newly translated Bible or book. This placed the king in a very difficult position. He could not possibly tolerate the heresies of his Dutch subjects, but he needed their money. If he allowed them to be Protestants and took no measure to save their souls, he was defiant in his duty towards God. If he sent the Inquisition to the Netherlands and burned his subjects at the stake, he would lose the great part of his income. Being a man of uncertain willpower, he hesitated a long time. He tried kindness and sternness and promises and threats. The Hollanders remained obstinate and continued to sing psalms and listen to the sermons of the Lutheran and Calvin. His preachers, the Philip, in his despair, sent his man of iron, the Duke of Alba, to bring these hardened sinners to terms. Alba began decapitating those leaders who had not wisely left the country before his arrival. In the year 1572, the same year that the French Protestant leaders were all killed during the terrible night of Saint Bartholomew, he attacked a number of Dutch cities and massacred inhabitants as an example for the others. The next year, he sailed to the town of Leiden, the manufacturing center of Holland. Meanwhile, the 7 small provinces of the northern Netherlands had formed a defense union, the so-called Union of Utrecht, and he recognized William of the Orange, a German prince who had been the private secretary of the Emperor Charles V and the leader of the army, as a commander of the freebooting sailors, who were known as the beggars of the sea. William, to save Leiden, cut the dikes, created a shadow inland sea, and delivered the town with the help of a strangely equipped navy consisting of scows and flat-bottomed barges, which were rowed and pushed and pulled through the mud until they reached the city walls. It was the first time that an army of the invincible Spanish king had suffered such a humiliating defeat. It surprised the world, just as the Japanese victory of Mukden in the Russian-Japanese War surprised our own generation. The Protestant powers took fresh courage, and Philip devised new means for the purpose of conquering his rebellious subjects. He hired a poor, half-witted fanatic to go and murder William of Orange, but the sight of the dead leader would bring the 7 promises to their knees. On the contrary, it made them furiously angry. In the year 1581, the Estate General, the meeting of representatives of the 7 provinces, came together at the Hague and most solemnly adjourned the wicked King Philip, and themselves assumed the burden of sovereignty, which thus far from had been invested in their king by the grace of God. This is a very important extent in the history of the great struggle for political liberty. It was a step which reached much further than the uprising of the nobles, which ended with the signing of the Magna Carta. These good burghers said, between the king and his subject, there is a silent understanding that both sides shall perform certain services and shall recognize certain defined duties. If either party shall fail to live up to his contract, the other has the right to consider it terminated. The American subject of King George III in the year 1776 came to a similar conclusion, but they had 3,000 miles of ocean between them, their ruler and their estate. General took the decision, which means a slow death in case of defeat. Within hearing of the Spanish guns, and although in certain fear of avenging the Spanish fleet, the stories about the mysterious Spanish fleet that was to conquer both Holland and England when Protestant Queen Elizabeth had succeeded Catholic Bloody Mary was an old one. And we're going to leave that right there for that book right there, which is the story of mankind, which we'll be reading here. And the next book that we will be entertaining is the plane geometry by Albert. In this book here, the last date I see here is January the 7th, 1937. This book here and what's going on now, a book of this magnitude. Trying to get the date. 1925. So we got 2 more years after this year. It'll be 100 years old. A book will be 100 years old right there. So when people ask, what is math? You have a copy of it. We call it a hard copy. And it says this new geometry meets modern ideas by presenting the subject as more attractive and more practical than appears in ordinary school books on the subject. Illustrations showing practical application of geometry are numerous, and there are a great many practical problems showing the relation of geometry to everyday life. The method of proof and parallel columns is used. This text is based upon an experience of many years in teaching high school pupils and has been written especially for the pupil. The author realized that geometry differs from the preceding studies of a pupil and that the latter's success or failure depends upon his securing at the beginning the right point of view. The right point of view. Point of view for your senses to achieve that point of view, from that point of view to that point of view, from that point of view to that point of view. The similarities between this angle protruding this way and this angle coming this way and this angle going up. We have to know everything. Not one person knows this and now he's sitting there. Da, 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 da. Now, I'm glad we ain't together. I'm so yes. You know, sometimes you're like, I want to be your man. I want to be. You really don't know. You're better off on a low low, on a low low for the no no. Don't need it. Won't. Give what I got, give you everything 110. You got it all. You got it, it's y'all. But I don't need two pieces. Alright, so now we talking about this here. We talking about introduction, preparing for preparing for proof, the nature of a proof, presentation of for proof, practice proof, formal proof, triangles, angles, and lines assigned with angles, problems of constructions, parallels, quadrilaterals, and parallel polygons. So the use of geometry in architect. Harvard, Yale, game, and Yale Bowl. High school students draft, drafting on Boston Common before the mayor. The Triangle, the Street Bridge, West Point cadets preceding a football game. Geometric figures embodied in landscape gardening. Geometry in steel structures. A crane placing a bridge in position. The circle as the basic of design. The ornamental use of a circle. Ornamental ironwork. The New England colonial doorway. St. Peter's and the tomb of Hadrian, Rome. The Gothic arch of equilateral arch. The construction involving geometrical principles. Early Roman architect. Baseball diamond, University of Michigan. Surmental arch. A aqueduct. An Italian palace. The Tudor arch. A four-center arch. An artistical use of circles and regular polygons. Okay. You have symbols. You have angle, triangle, poly, power, parallelogram, 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 color, perpendicular, 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 parallel, equals, equal to, incongruent, equal in degrees, greater than, less than, similar to, therefore, circle, circle, prime, 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 circle, therefore, similar, similar to, are, so, so on, as in, is less than, greater than. Plane geometry introduction. first facts. Geometry, number one. Geometry. One. Geometry. The word geometry comes from two Greek words meaning earth measurement. The subject goes far back into early life of Egypt. The Egyptians felt the need of some system of measuring land. Geometry was developed from this need, and it is used so today. Boys cannot lay out a football diamond or football grid gridiron, nor can girls mark the tennis court without using geometry. Other uses of geometry are seen in degrees of architect, the blueprints of the machinist, the constructions of the engineer, the measurements of the souvenirs and astronomers. In fact, geometry is into so largely into our daily life that we take much of it for granted. We were all familiar with angles and triangles and squares and circles before we knew there was such a thing or study as geometry. The value of geometry. Geometry proves statements by process of reasoning and this and thus develop habits of careful, connected, accurate thinking. Such habits are necessary in almost any line of work. A doctor visits you in time of sickness. He asks how you feel, looks at your finger, takes your temperature, feels your pulse, or does various other things you have seen doctors do when they are studying an illness. He does this to do that and get at the facts of the illness. And having obtained these facts, he studies them carefully and makes his decision as to what the sickness is and how it should be treated. He must have a mind trained to how to draw, connect conclusions upon the clearness and accuracy of his thinking and reasoning depends on the success of his work. So too a lawyer presenting his case to a jury should know the facts of the case and be able to state them clearly. He must have a reason for presenting each bit of evidence and must prove the truth of all his statements. If he is to convince his hearers and win his case. No matter what occupation we may choose, we find that two of the greatest helps in life are clear thinking and sound reasoning. So if you heard about sound right reasoning, clear thinking, this book here is 100 years old. Every 100 years, we renew ourselves. Every 100 years, someone is chosen to give you clear thinking, put you back right on track, on the groove, on the right, the path, give you what you need so you will endure. So we will be doing this geometry book also. In the last book for tonight, today, the night, the nighttime, the new time, right? Is this one here. It's a French and English book. And we can always get, you have to have a hard copy, get your own copy, get a big book. Get what you can get, and then you go more on it. This is a genuine Merriam-Webster. We talk about them and Webster and Merriam and people in the Bible. This essential French vocabulary highlights Canadian terms. So it's over 80,000 entry words and phrases. It says explanatory notes, French grammar, con, con, congregated, congregation of French verbs, abbreviations in this work, pronunciation symbols, French English dictionary, English French dictionary, common French abbreviation, French numbers. So it explains to you how to read it. It tells you about, we'll go into the explanation in the notes and stuff like that. Show you how to read the book. And we're going to go into that actually. We're going to go into the book and we're going to read the book. And I'm going to start you off on this book. Then we're going to continue and do some words, maybe 5 words, in French, 5 words in Spanish, 5 words in German. Because we just read today. Excuse me. We just read today about the Holy German Catholic